Okay, good afternoon. Today we'll be talking about UI UX design, and I will start with a brief understanding of what UI UX is. Um, Let me share my screen so we all be on the same page. Please, I want to quickly put a disclaimer to this for the benefit of everybody who is learning. I would advise that you get a notepad. You first listen to the class, try to understand what I'm doing. Then from there, you jot down anything that is unclear to you so that you will ask questions from it. Are you getting it? So you ask questions because if you're practicing immediately I'm doing, you might miss some steps. Share it. Understand it first. Then I will give you time to practice. Now, maybe during the process of you practicing, you might have some questions you want to ask as well. Then I'll be able to hear those questions. Then I'll be able to know the things you're doing that is unclear. But I discovered that when you code along while I'm or where you practice along as I'm doing, it's not that it's a bad practice, it's also a good practice, but it is not as efficient as if you wait and I do some of the things, then you're given the time to practice your own as well. So that we'll be on the same page. So um let's begin the class by understanding what UI UX is all about. And if you have a question about it, I would say you should ask. So let's begin from what's UI UX. So a brief understanding of what UI UX is all about. UI/UX design refer to the process of creating user's interface. That is, the meaning of the UI means user's interface and user's experience, and that's the meaning of the UX. That's the U for the beginning of the user and the X, the second letter after the experience, makes the UX. For digital products such as websites, mobile apps, and software application. The goal of UI UX designer is to create intuitive, attractive, and engaging interfaces that provide users with a seamless and enjoyable experience. This involve understanding users' need, behavior, and preference, as well as designing interface. This involve understanding users' behaviors and preferences, as well as designing interface that are aesthetically pleasing, easy to use, and functional. UI/UX designer often use tools such as wireframes, prototypes, and user testing to ensure that their design meets your users' needs and are effective in achieving the product goal. Effective UI/UX design can greatly impact users' satisfaction, engagement, and overall success of a digital product. Meaning, the job of a UI/UX team is to create um, products, either mobile app or web application or any software application. Create a prototype of it before the actual production. Creating a digital product, a prototype of what the outcome will look like, even before it has been executed. So wireframing, prototype, and user testing. Okay, I think I've made that note. So I'm just trying to explain what UI UX is all about. So to continue with it, um, when you're creating a digital product, creating a prototype for it before even creating the product goes a long way to showcase what your end goal will be. Instead of going about thinking about how this interface will look, which sometimes you might have a change of mindset at any given time. It's a better approach as a software developer or a designer to or a product owner to create a prototype which are meant to be done by the UI UX team before they go ahead and execute the product. So what is required of you before you start your UI UX journey is to first have a basic background on what design is. Now, learning how to design is different from knowing how to design. Some people can use some graphic tools just like CorelDRAW, Photoshop, and what have you, but they don't understand the fundamentals required in design. And with this, I will recommend you learn before you furthermore about it. It's not compulsory, it's just a necessary step. I will recommend that you study what UI UX, what are the fundamentals of graphic design before you go ahead. And one of the major functionalities, or should I say, one of the major websites which has what you need that will teach you the fundamentals of design is gcfglobal.org. If you visit this website or you just Google fundamentals of design, the it gives you a breakdown on what you can do, what the fundamentals of designs are all about. You can see the basic art, designs and more. Everything you need to know about design is being slated in the website. So you can read from top to bottom, you can watch their videos, you can do every other things. It has an in-depth of you understanding what fundamentals of design is, the element of design, and even color theory. The website is loaded with things you need to understand design as a beginner, as an amateur, as an intermediate, as an advanced, or as a professional. When you go through the website, there's a whole lot of documentation about everything you need to know about designs. Everything you need to know about designs, from typography to color to images to branding and identity to the fundamentals of designs. So I would have gone into this, but I have a belief it will take most of our time. But the basic one I want us to go through is the fundamental of design, which is this page I'm currently on. I'll just do a glance through so you have a clear understanding, or you watch just a 5 minute video, think a few minute video about it. So I would like to ask, should we just watch the video or I should just do a quick glance through so we all be on the same page? Should I play the video so everybody can watch it? Mr. Matthew, should I play the video?
I think you can just do a glance through, then you give us the details
Okay.
about the
So the name of the
video.
website is gcfglobal.org. You go there. There are many other resources, but this is one of the resources which I highly recommend. Now, the fundamental of designs are the foundation of every visual medium, from fine arts to modern web design. They are even present in seamless, unimportant details, like the font that makes up most compositions. Now, when you're making up your designs, these are the fundamental things we need. What this example has in common, some very basic elements, including the line, the shape, form, texture, and balance. Now, these are the basic elements of design: line, shape, form, texture, and balance. That's balancing all of these things together, putting them together. This might not seem like much on their own, but together they are part of almost everything we see and create. Now, with shapes, with design, we communicate informations even without uttering words. design shapes, whether graphically or by writing, create some informations, create a mode of communication without you speaking a word. A good example of it is our traffic lights. When you see a traffic light, I there are some basic, let me talk that about color. When you see a traffic light, I don't think there's somebody somewhere. So we have different aspects of this of communicating. Color is one of the most important. There's something we call color theory that these people also laid emphasis on, which I want you to go through. But let's put it in this sense. If you look at this color palette that we're seeing here, we have red, yellow, and green. As somebody who drives, when you come across this, by seeing the green color, you understand that you're permitted to drive. When you see the yellow, it's a warning sign either to stop or you get ready to move. But when you see the red sign, it's an indication that you should stop the vehicle. Now, all of this communicate information to you without you even uttering a word, without you even uttering a statement. So these are some of the fundamentals of design that we need to put into consideration even before we proceed. Am I making any sense, sir? Even without uttering any words, they communicate some of these things to us. So putting all of these things together creates a different understanding on approach on how you get your information or how you disseminate information. So in this class, let's start from the three most important aspects of a UI UX design. Now, in UI UX, we have three major branches that every designer must be acquainted with. Give me a minute. And this is called the lo-fi, which stands for low fidelity. We have the mid-fi, which stands for mid fidelity, and we have the hi-fi, which stands for high fidelity. Now, when you're dealing with prototype, when you're prototyping when you're making a wireframe of your design, we use this lo-fi. That is creating a rough sketch of design. Let me give you an example of a lo-fi. Show you what a wireframing is. Now, wireframing can come in any format. Okay, it can come in the form of using a tool or writing on a paper. You can make a rough sketch on the paper, or you can use any graphic tool to make a rough sketch of the design that you want. So let's see a sample. Sorry, Daniel, I will want you to send to me all the wireframing that was scanned. Can you send it to me, please? So we use it in this class.
Okay, sir.
Okay, send it to me via WhatsApp so I can use it in this class.
Okay, sir.
The one we scanned. So while waiting for that, I would go into how Figma works. Now, Figma is one of the tools we can use to create a UI UX. It's a graphical tool, just like your Photoshop and Canvas and your CorelDRAW. It can do same thing that all these tools also do. But what makes Figma different is that the case study for it was actually to create UI UX. And what makes it different from Photoshop or CorelDRAW is that you can prototype your design, which I believe CorelDRAW or Photoshop does not have. One of the Adobe tools that have that is Adobe Experience Design, which is Adobe XD. So, and using Photoshop, you can have a freemium version which has limitation. You can only have 3 Figma or free jam files, unlimited personal files, unlimited collaborations, plugins, widgets and templates, and mobile apps. Why for your Figma profession, there are more functionalities you can have compared to it. So if you want to go into a professional level, we choose you upgrade. But as a starter or as someone who is learning or just want to create simple designs or small and medium companies, maybe you should start with your starter package and later you upgrade. So I would want us all to register for uh for Figma. So you can simply go to figma.com to get your registration started so we can start a design. Can we do that now? Can we all do that now? Do you all have a Figma file
Okay,
account?
sir.
Okay, you have a question.
No, I don't have, but I'll create one now.
Okay, I would like you guys to create and to create. Let me look for an account that I can use to create. So if I go to figma.com, so let's say get started. This is how you create an account. Let's say get started. Now you can create with either your email. You can see you can create your email address or you type in the manual emails here. So these are the two ways of creating. So I'll click on continue with Google. So if you follow the steps that I'm using, so I will create with this account. I click on this, the project begins. So you can give it a name and what kind of work do you do? You can simply tell them the kind of work you do. You can be a student or for me, I'm a student or educator or software developer. Choose any of this and what will you use for work, for personal use, for teaching or taking a class? I agree to join Figma mailing list. Now this is optional, it's not compulsory. So you select all of these options and just create an account. So this is the process needed to create a Figma account that you can use to do your jobs. So if you create a Figma account, this is the interface you have. So I would wait for you guys to do the same. So from here, you can see Figma wants you to create a team because you can work as a team in your company whereby multiple people will have access to the same project you're dealing with. So let's say I want to create a team. This is a new Figma account. Mr. Matthew, have you created your Figma account? Chigozie, have you created yours? Chigozie, have you created yours?
Yes, I've created it. I think you're not on it when I said so.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What about Chigozie? Have you created yours?
Okay.
Okay. Now, let me bring back a
Thank you,
quick
sir.
disclaimer to what I said before. Please, for your own good, it's a good practice as well. If you work along the way I'm working, you are working alongside with me. But I will so much recommend and advise that you let me finish what I'm doing before you proceed with yours. For the benefit of this class, I would advise you let me finish whatsoever I'm doing before you proceed with yours in order to avoid clusters. Okay? It's a recommendation to everybody. So let's give my team a name. Let's say the name of my team is Fire Up. The name of the team is Fire Up. Use as a random name, and I click on Save My Team. Now, with this, I can share the link to everybody, or I can invite people via email so that they can have access to this same project that I'm building. Okay? Now, anybody I send it to will be the one to have access to it. But if I don't want it, I can just proceed by clicking this and okay, enter at least one email address. So let me just send it to myself to be a team. Okay, start for free. Design with Figma. Okay, so let me give you a quick tour of what this interface is. And let me show you what a wireframing is. Like I said, wireframing is a prototype, a rough sketch of all the layouts, either a mobile app, a web app, or a software application will have before it moves into production, before you send them for production. So if you have a rough sketch of it, maybe written in a paper or written with a tool, like we have some here which I would want us to work with, and that will be this ones here. Let me download all of this. Save all. So let me download this. And let me locate what I downloaded. So I'll go down to photos, I'll scroll down. Now these are all the images I downloaded. So let me bring out one of the pages. So it's loading up. So this is the design. Um, this is its design, but let me move further. Okay. So let me give me a minute. Give me a minute. So let's continue by moving further. Okay. Let me create this design. So now all of these things that I'm showing to us is a rough sketch. Is a rough sketch of um let me rotate it. So this is just a rough sketch of the design. Now we want to build a website, and this website is meant for voting and the likes. So we just made a rough sketch of it. Are you getting it? We create a rough sketch of it before we implement the website. So let's see how we can replicate any of these designs, and we'll proceed with it. So let's replicate this one. So this is what we call wireframing, a paper stage of our design. Now, before we take it into production, let's see how we can use the tools we have. Now, as a newbie to Figma, let's create a new Figma file. So we click on this. If I come here, I can click on this. When I click on this new design file, a new page will come up. Now, let's do a quick tour of what we have here. First and foremost, we have our file section here, where you can add files, edit things, just like a normal graphic tools will have. Then we have our selector tool, which we can use to select, and we have the mover and we have the scaler. Then we have what we call frame. Now this frame is one of the most important of them all, and it is what we use regularly. Each and every one of this is what we use regularly. Most important of them all is this frame. Then we have our regular shapes. We have a rectangular shape. If I click on this small arrow, you see your line, your arrow, your ellipse, let's say circle. Then you have your polygon, your star, and your image placeholder, either for images or for video. Then we have our pencil tool, or we call it the pen and the pencil tool. We have our text tool. And if you want to add every other types like component, plugins, and widgets, we add them from here. Plugins we download from online, widgets we get them, components the ones we create by ourselves or the ones that are attached to some projects being created. All of this is what we will create. Now first and foremost, let's create a artboard. Now what's an artboard? An artboard is the location of where your design will be like. Let's take for example, if you look at this design that we have here, this is a website and you can see it has a logo. It should have a navigation bar, but I'm not seeing the navigation bar here. The way it was scanned was wrongly scanned. That's why we're not seeing the full content. That's why we're not seeing the full content. It has a navigation bar. I just want something simple that will work with. But if you look at this, you can see that we have the web view here and we have the mobile view of the same page. Let's call this page the sign up page. Sorry, the login page where people will log in. Okay, I think let's say this is the sign up page. This is the web page and this is the mobile page. That's if responsiveness change, this is how it will be on the mobile. And if the responsiveness, if it is on web view, this is how it will look like. So let's see how we can replicate this on Figma. So before I proceed, I would love to ask, do anybody have any question? Do anybody have any question? Please, if there's no questions, say there's no question. And if there's a question, let me hear you. Any question
No
before I
question,
proceed?
sir. Move on, sir. You're
Okay,
with you.
okay. So let me proceed. So one of the things you will notice from this wireframing is that we have some set of basic tools. This thing that is written like this, like just wavy lines, represent text. These boxes represent input box where you can enter words, letter and the likes. This is a logo for image, an image with logo, and this serve as our navigation. So let's try find a way to replicate this in our code. Sorry, on Figma. Since we create, remember the first thing we need to select. If you notice our background has a Jamin display. Are we together? It has a display and you can see that the background of this design,
Yes,
this is the
sir.
color. If I click on this here, I can change the background color to anything of my choice. Can you see? I can change it to anything of my choice, but I prefer the style it is, which is
Yes, sir.
F5, F5, F5. This is the default background color it has, but you can
F5.
change it. Yes, F5, F5, F5. That's the hash code being used. And if I don't want to display it, I can just click on this eye here, no more background. And if I click it, the background will come back up. So this tiny box you're seeing here it indicates transparency. But if I click back on this, you can see the design came back up. So let's create more design. Now, first and foremost, I will want us to create the web view before we create the mobile view. So let's create a page. On this page, I will call it the web view. So I can simply click on it, rename it, and type web view. So this is the web view of the product I'm building. Now, what's the name of our product? A voting system. So let's just call it voting websites. So automatically, you can see this is where I edit it. If I go back, I'll still see it there. So if I click on this, this is the page we are currently working on. So I can start creating my artboard. Now, in other graphic tools, we call it artboard. For this, we call it frame. So if I click on this and I select my frame, now selecting my frame, by just clicking, there will be a custom frame of by 100 by 100 pixels. Can you see 100 by 100 pixels? A frame is being added to this page, and the frame is 100 by 100 pixels. But this is not the size I want. So I can just simply delete this. I can click on it and type and click on delete on my keyboard. So the frame I want, if I click on the frame again, if you look to your right hand side, sorry, yes, you will see different type of frame. Now, I can select for mobile phone, which you can see iPhone 14, iPhone 14 Pro, down to Android small, Android large. And if I collapse this and I expand this tablet, you can see the tablet view for different tablets. And if I collapse this, I can come down to desktop, which is mostly for web. You can click any design. You can see for presentation, for wristwatch, for paper, for social media, for Figma community, for archives. So for me, I'll be dealing with the desktop. So if I click on this desktop, it will automatically create an artboard for me for desktop. Now let me rename this frame that I just create. So I can just click here to rename, or I can click here. If I double click on here, I can call it home page, or we'll call it the landing page. The choice is yours. If I call it home page, the name I give it here determines the name it will be called here. Now, before I proceed, do anybody have any question? Do anybody have any question before I proceed?
No, sir.
No. Okay. Now, this is the artboard. Now, from the artboard, if you check under the design, you will see that it is a frame. As default, it is on a landscape view, but I can click on this to put it on a portrait view. So if I click on this, it goes back to landscape view. And this tells us about the sequence of position. It tells us the sequence of the position and the width. That means the width of this is 1440 pixels, while this is 1024 1024 in height. Do we catch that? So what I want to do is to replicate this. And in graphic tools, in design in general, one of the most common shape we use when we are creating our lo-fi, our wireframing, is rectangle. Rectangle is one of the most basic tool we use. If you look at all of our design, the ones we have here, give me a minute. The one we have here, you will see that majority of shapes that it has are in rectangular format. That's because rectangle is one of the most basic shape we use in creating a UI UX design, UI design in particular. Now let's go into it in details. Let me go there. Now, the first thing I want to create is the navigation panel. And in order for me to do that, I will create a rectangle. Now, I will bring the rectangle here, I will drag on top of my frame and I drop it like this. By doing this, I have created a navigation bar. But how do we know it's a navigation bar? Because it's at the top. Now, my navigation bar, we have my logo here and some menu. And I can simply replicate that by clicking on this, creating this, a box here. Now, the box I have here, let me give it a different color. I can simply click on it and come to this design property and give it any color of my choice. For me, I want to reduce it to something like this. And at the other end, I want to replicate this. Let me expand this. I don't like the height. I want the height to be at 90, so I'll put it at 90. So now I've put it there. In order for this not to move around, I can simply right click on it or click on it and click on this lock button. By clicking on this lock button, whenever I decide to move it, you can see it's no longer going anywhere. But if I unlock it, it means if I mouse over to it or if I select it, I can move it around. So that's how you keep something in place. You keep something in place. Now, to the logo of it, I want the logo to be here. My logo has to be in text format because I'm just showing you how to quickly create a wireframing. I'll represent everything in boxes. This will serve as my logo. Let me create another rectangle or duplicate this. Let me copy and paste. And let me bring it into my dashboard. I can take this down here as well. Now I want to reduce the width. So I don't like the fact that this is 49. Let's make it 50. Let's make this, the height should be 50, but the width, and why this one, I want it height also to be 50. So to be 40, and I want the width to be 100. So this will serve as our mini navigation, like click on this to get to home. So let's replicate this again, copy this, and then we paste here. Yes, allow this. I can simply drag it down here and paste it here. Or I can just hold on to it and hold on my alternate key. Now the alternate will make you create a duplicate instead of doing the short version or the long process of right clicking and creating what was it called, copy and paste. You can simply click on one you create, hold down your alternative key, then you drag to the position where you want it to be. So, and I want the gap in between them to be at least 30. So 30 pixels. Let me just move a bit, and I can just create another duplicate by pressing Ctrl D. So by pressing Ctrl D, you can see we have the same distance in between them, and we have like 3 navigation here. Now, I want us to know something which is very important. Let me click on this design, this frame. Now, if you look at this frame here, you can see that everything starts from here and stops here. In order for us to have a proper layout of our items so that things will not look distorted, we can easily use what we call the grid layout, which is here. If I click on this plus, I can create a grid. Now, this grid will give an opportunity for us to position our items properly on the canvas, on the artboard. But we have the method of grid. If I click on this, you will see we have, this is where you will set it, and we have what we call the grid format, which is this tiny box. If I zoom in, if I hold my control and zoom in, hold my control and rolling my what's it called, the scroller in between my mouse, I can zoom in and I can also zoom out. So you can see this is in grid format. I can put it in row or column format by selecting this. This is in column format and this is in row format. Now, depending on the one you want, and if you noticed, we only have about 5 of them here. That's because at default, what we have here is 5. If I say it should be 20, it will create about 20 rows for the background. Now, this has no effect on your design. It's just for you to create a layout where, so that positioning of your item will be accurate. Things will not overflow out of their positions. So for this, I will select this and select column, because column is the one I will be using, and I will make it 1. I will make it just 1. Now, you can see the 1 covers everything. Can you see that? And that's because in this part, we have what we call stretch. Now, with this stretch, okay, before I even mention stretch, let's talk about the margin. The margin will give a space at the edge of it to give distance. So let's say I want the edges to be around 20 pixels. By pressing 20, you can see we have tiny edges around them. But for me, I would prefer using 60. By pressing 60, you can see the distance. Now, with this understanding, I can easily position my item in a way that things will not flow out of the designs that we have. I have positioned that. I can as well position this too. Can you see it? So by doing this, I'm giving myself the opportunity to put my items properly on the layout. Before I proceed, any question? Have we done it? Do we have any problem? If I didn't hear anything, that means I have to proceed. I want you guys to say something. Where are we? Have we been able to add all of this? Mr. Matthew,
Sir, I didn't get it though.
you didn't get it. So where do you stop?
I didn't get it.
Yeah, 50 grams. I know what I'm saying. This is for children.
Where did you stop?
Chuchu. What? Is it about this corners?
I was trying to create the rectangle,
You know they're working. This is for children.
the
Now,
rectangle, and getting this your background. That first background. I'm trying to get the first background.
okay, let me remove this one I have.
It's for this thing. Like infection.
Let's mute ourselves, please. Let's mute ourselves. So, in order for me to disable,
no, I believe no break. Okay.
if you want to remove this layout that we are having, you can simply see it here. I can click on this eye and you will no longer see it. Now, to add this background is under your frame. When you click on frame, you go down to desktop and select. Me, I'm using desktop here. You can see different sizes. We also have what we call wireframes. So the choice is yours. You can pick any of this. Mr. Matthew, do you catch that now?
Sir, not this one, no.
The rectangle.
Not this one. This first
This one.
background, the first one from the rectangle, that we have the white background inside.
This one.
How do we get that?
Look at my screen. Is it this
Yes,
navigation
the
bar?
first triangle.
This navigation bar.
Yeah, that navigation bar. Yes, you are right.
So just come down to this shape up here. You will see rectangle.
Yes.
Click on it, then you drag. It's as simple like that, as if you're using a graphic tool. Yes, it will be on YouTube, but it will take time before you get to YouTube because I have to edit it. So you can see the way I drag it. That's the way you create.
How can I delete other triangles, sir?
You can click on anyone you don't want and press delete on your keyboard. Take your mouse to the one you don't want and look at your keyboard and press the word delete. Daniel, what do you want?
Sir, I want to ask that pinkish layout that you had. So how did you add it?
Okay, let's do that now. Mute yourself so that we can do that. You can simply create, first you have to click on the frame. You know we are working on the frame. So you have to click on that frame. Now clicking on that frame, you come to this layout grid. So when you click on this layout grid, or you click on, let me click on plus now. You see you have this frame. Then you can click on this one here, this box here, and I change mine to column. This is column. Are you seeing it? So I gave it a margin of 60 and I gave it, how many columns did I want? I only want one. That's why I got that. And I can simply delete it by pressing this button.
Okay, sir.
Have you seen it? So if I want it to be active, this is it. I can just click on this. This is it. And if I unclick, have you been able to draw all of these shapes?
Hello, sir.
I'm listening.
If you check these rectangles, it have some like white background
Inside.
from the other background inside. Yes.
So
How
how
do I
can,
get that? That's
okay,
my
click
challenge.
on the one you want. When you click on it, come to fill, come down under your design, your right section. You will see where they wrote fill. When you select the fill, you can select any color of your choice. Can you see? We have many other colors that you can select.
Yes, sir.
Are you seeing it? So for me, I selected this one.
Yes, sir.
I press Ctrl Z. So me, I'm using F6, F6, F6. So you can just click here and type F6, F6, F6. That's the one me I'm using here.
Okay.
So can I continue?
F6, F6, F6. Okay, continue, sir. Continue.
Okay, I've gotten a continue from Mr. Matthew. Daniel,
Thank you, sir.
Aregbe, Chigozie.
Sir, we are here.
Okay, have you done everything?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let me proceed. If I click on this, you will notice that apart from the navigation, we have some text here. Okay, now in order for us to achieve this text, sorry, I believe from the understanding of what we are trying to do on this, we want all of this to be at one side and this logo too on another side. So let's create that demarcation. So in order for us to have that demarcation, I will first create another layout for this my design, for this my home page. I will come here and click on plus, select column, and I want just 2 column, and the margin too will be 60. Now, this is what I want. Now, remember, that does not stop this. If I on this, we have 1 and we have 2. Can you see? So let me use this 2. Now, what we want is for the logo. So from the design layout we have, you can see we have this dummy text here, and we have all of this here. Similarly, we have this here as well. So in order for us to achieve that, I'll put this dummy text first. And I can do that by simply coming here, bringing a text, bringing my same rectangle because I'm just doing a rough sketch wireframing, and I will do a tiny design, something like this. Are you seeing it? I'll do something like this, and I will create a duplicate of it by holding on to this, dragging it down. Let the space be around 8. I've created another duplicate. Then I'll come down and create another duplicate. So it will be seen as a text. And with this, I can simply adjust to this level, create another duplicate, and expand towards this level. So people will see this now as a text. Are you seeing it? People will see this as a raw text. Now, if you open your video and you click on YouTube, let me select YouTube. I want you guys to notice something. You can see all these tiny, tiny boxes that are appearing. That's just a wireframing of what will appear. If I refresh this again, watch this. Let me select YouTube again. Before before the YouTube load, you can see these boxes that appear. Only what will be here will be text. It first appear as a tiny box. And that's the same thing I just replicated here. Rectangle is one of the most basic tools used. Now, in order for all of these things not to go off course, I can click on them and group them together. Select them or and press Ctrl G. Now, grouping them together, I can just call them menu. Rename and call it menu or nav. Then I can call all of this. Okay, let me create one more. Let me create another one here. So let me zoom in so we can see it clearly. And I will expand towards this end. Let me create a duplicate like this and reduce this here like this. So this is the text. So let me group it. I'll select this, select all my shifts, select this. I'm using shift to select them. Then I'll press Ctrl G to group them together, and I'll just call them dummy text. Dummy text justify, because you can see all the text here are well justified. They are touching both edges. So I want you guys to also replicate this from your end. Can you guys replicate this from your end?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's good. That's good. So let me proceed. Now, the next thing I want us to add to this, you will see where there is BVN, last name, middle name, first name, phone number, email address, home address, date of birth, password. So we have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 boxes, then with a button. So let's create that 10 boxes. I can simply just come here, create a box here from this path, and let's leave it this way, and we'll create a duplicate. First, I want to give this curved edges so it will look like an input box. So in order for me to give this a input edges, remember this is the width, this is the height, this is the angle elevation, but this talks about the corner. If I press this, it will only give one, but if I click here, this is for independent, this will give everything. If I click here, I can give an individual corner. That's each corner here its own curve. But if I remove this and I give this one, let's say I come here and say 5, and I press enter. If you look at it, it has a little bit of curve around it. Or let me increase it to 10, so you see them in reality. So can you see the curved edges? So that's how you can add border radius to it. And with this, I will only hold on to it, hold on my alternate, because I want to create a duplicate. I will bring it down. Now I want the gap to be around 20. Now after creating that, just press, remember we have only 7, D 5 times. Duplicate, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It will automatically create the same duplicate and the same space in between them. So I want you guys to replicate the same. I want you guys to replicate the same thing that I just did. So taking a look at it, the next thing is this checkbox with the agreement and the sign up button. So let's do that. We create a little box here for the agreement. So let me bring it 20. Then the text that will be in front of it, I'll just click here. Let me click one of this. Okay, I think I'll prefer this. So I'll press Ctrl C or right click and copy. So I can bring it here and click on paste here. So from here, I can just bring the text somewhere here and drag it. Now I want to teach you guys something super interesting. If you notice the arrangement of these things here, if you notice the arrangement, this thing is here and this thing is here. If you look at them, they are both not on the same line. So how can I make them on the same line? I can manually adjust it, or I can select both of them and click on this align horizontal center. If I click on this, it puts both of them in the middle, which is not what we want. So I press Ctrl Z. Rather, I will click on this align vertical center. So if I click on this, it puts them both in the same position, and this will be in the middle. With that, I think I've created that. Then the next thing is to create our sign up button. So let me click on this, drag it down with my alternate. So when it is at the position where I want it, let's move this and this upward. Okay, so let's take this to the same position and leave it here. Now I will change the color. I can come to this view and change the color. Let me make it dark, darker, so we know it's a button. It's different from others. So if I zoom out, you can see we've just created a replication of this, even without text here, because we're just doing a local wireframing. This is just like ideation, trying to create an idea for your project. So I've created that, this replicate, I've replicated this. So I want you guys to also do this and let's see what the outcome would be like. The reason why we are creating this is so that if we want to create our own the UI, the mid file, remember this is just a simple wireframing, which is called the low file, which I showed you when I click on this YouTube. If I click on this YouTube, you saw what I displayed. If I click on YouTube here, this design, that's what we just replicated. Okay. Okay, let's put the image. Now let's put the last one, which is this logo here. So in order for us to put it, let me on my, I'll click on this home and I will on this double colon. Now the only reason why I'm using this double colon is because I want to put these two things separately. This one at one side, this one at the other side. So at this other colon, I can just simply create a rectangle and put it somewhere around here. So if I hold shift, I will create a perfect shape of equal size, equal height, and equal width. And I can just position it anywhere of my choice. So I prefer it to be here. And this is fine for me. This is fine for me. So I want you all to do the same thing and we're done with our wireframing. This is a simple wireframe. So let's create this and I will show you how to create a mid file. So this is a low file. I'll show you how to create a mid file for every project. Mr. Matthew, do you have any question?
How do you do the second sectional side? Do you know we have two sectional
Yeah,
this thing
click on
now?
your
How do you
own.
do the second
Remember
one
we
that
had
has like
this
a
grid.
square?
Hold on, let me recreate it again. Let me delete this one. If I click on this grid layout here, I click on this plus.
Yeah.
You can see the grid is everywhere. There are tiny, tiny boxes everywhere.
Yeah.
Now, if I click on this grid 10 here, I can change it from grid to column. Are you seeing it?
Okay.
So out of the column, if
Yes,
you
sir.
count, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't want 5 of it. I only want 2. So I will change the count to 2. And if I press 2, you can see the 2. So I
Okay.
want margin here and I want margin here. And to get that, I can simply come here and say 60 under the margin. I press enter. Automatically, it will add that margin to it. That's how I created it.
Oh, great, great, great.
It just serves as a guide for your design. I want you guys to replicate the same. And let's do a
Okay.
real mid file that is adding proper text and images.
Okay, sir.
Have we
Yes,
done
sir.
the design? So this is just what we call wireframing. We've done wireframing. The most used shape in wireframing is rectangle, but we can use other shape like circle and the likes. So I want us to continue this. Now let's create a different page where you will do. So let me just call this the wireframing. This page is called the wireframing. If I rename it, I can say wireframe. So on a norms, I'm supposed to do the mid file here, but I just want us to create something separately somewhere so we can now later refer to it. So how do we do it? We are still going to redo all of this, but in a better format. So I can simply come here and create a new page, and let me call this web view. So in this web view, remember the first thing we need to do is to attach. Can you hear me, guys? The
Yes,
first thing we
sir.
need to do is to attach our frame. So I'll come to the frame, select frame, and I'll select this desktop. Can you see the same? So let's create the sign up page. So let's call it sign up. I'll just come here, rename it to sign up. Then while I create the sign up, I can simply create the rectangle for the top. So I can create a rectangle here. So this rectangle, I want the height to be 100. So this is okay for me, or I leave it at 90, something similar to what we used here. If I remove this frame, I remove this, you will see that this rectangle that we locked, it is by 90. So let's make it by 90 as well. So let's go to the web view. Let's make this 90. Now let's do the logo. Now before we do the logo, we need to set um, a grid so that we would have a design guide. So what I would do, I will come in here down to this place. I'll select this sign up. So we'll click on this and let's call it the nav bar. So I will right click on this and rename it. So let's double click this and rename it nav bar. So we know this is our navigation bar. So I can lock this so that it will not move away from the position. Now the next thing we do is to add text. Now one of the most difficult aspects of UI or of a graphic designer, of a product designer in particular, one of the most difficult aspects of their job is selecting font and selecting color. These two things can take you a day, even not weeks, to get the perfect color for your design. So what I will do, let me first select my layout. So I'll come back to this sign up and I will come to this grid layout, change this to column the same way. This is row, but because we're not dealing on row, we change it to column. Then the column, I just want it to be how many? Okay, let me just give it a margin of 60, margin of 60 pixels. So here will be logo and your navigation will be here. So let me give you like 8 of this. So the reason why I'm giving it 8, remember the gutter is 20. Now what is the gutter? The gutter is this gap in between them. If I change it, you know it's 20, if I change it to 5, watch what will happen. You can see the gap was closed. And if I change it back to 20, the gap went back to the normal structure it is. And at default, it is on stretch, which means it touches the top and the bottom. But if I change this thing here, let's say I put it to the right, you can see everything move to the right of it. If I change it to the left, and with this, I can determine the width. The width is in 10 pixels. Let me change it to like 30 pixels. The size of each column will be different. I can move it as well to the right, and I can as well move it to the what? To the center, and I can as well leave it at stretch. With that stretch, the width will have to be what? Auto. So I will change this to be what? 1. And I believe all of this thing I'm doing now is no longer new to every one of you. Is it new? Mr. Matthew, this thing I just did, is it new to you?
No, sir.
Okay, I believe you find it easy to do, to replicate as well.
Yes, sir.
Okay, the next thing we're going to do now is to add our logo. So our logo will be text. Since we don't have a logo yet, so what we are dealing with now, we're dealing with the mid file, which is creating the UI itself without adding colors and the likes. So that's the mid file. We are now on the mid file. So dealing with the mid file, I can bring text by clicking here. I can now bring my text here. Anywhere you click here, you can position your text. Now the text, let me type logo. Now the name of my text is logo. Now you can see it is very small. I can similarly do the same thing by coming down to this design section, coming to this text. I can change the font size. Let me change it from 12 to like 40, reposition it where I want it. Then another thing is I want it to be bold or black. Now at default it is on enter. I can change my font style to anything of my choice. For me, let me use let me look for pumpkins. Let me see if there is pumpkins. Okay, I don't think there is pumpkins. Okay, there is pumpkins for it. So I can click on pumpkins and I leave it the way it is. So the font I desire is pumpkins. So by doing that, now I can position my item anywhere I want. I want it to be in this middle. Then I want this. Remember, this will be home, about, and the like. So I can create another text. I click here. Let me click here. Now, by clicking, it will automatically take the shape, the size of this. So if I type, let me say I type here now, home. Can you see that it took the same size? So I can simply readjust by simply selecting it, change the size. Let me say the size now is around 12. I think 12 is too big. It's too small. Let me leave it at 15, or let me leave it at 20. Let's remove the boldness. Please give me a minute. Can you guys hear me? Yeah, you can. So let's remove the black. Let's make it regular. So it will look like a regular text. and depending on what we want. And it's okay like this for me for now. And I want it to be on the same line with what we have there. So I can just take it here like this and it will be on the same line. So let me replicate. If I want to replicate, I hold on to this.
Yes, sir.
I hold on my alternate, drag it like this, give it a gap of 28, then press Ctrl D to create another duplicate. Then I will select this, hold down my shift, select this, select this. All of this, let me move it to the edge here. Now, I don't think they have enough space. Let me select them. If I select them, I can simply just drag like this and it will automatically create space in between them. Can you see? But that's not what I want. So what I want is, I want this to be moved out. Let the space be like this. And let the space be like this. Now, if you look at the navigation bar, I think what we have here is sign up, sign in and slash sign off, and election results, and home. So the home remains. Let me move this out. Let me change this to election results. So I'll say election results. I can bring this here. Then this will be let's will be sign in, sign up slash sign up, and this will remain home. So this is the navigation. Now, for them all to be on the same line, I can select this, select this, select this, and select this. And from here, I will just select this arrangement. So everything will be on the same line. Now, I want you guys to replicate this and let me see your feedback. Let me remove my design layout. Okay, let me click this, and click this. So this will touch the extreme edge. So let me remove my sign up page. Let me remove the grid layout. So I'll click on this eye. So I want you guys to replicate this as well. So the next thing I want us to work with, um, if you notice from our design, we have a button here. And this button has many duplicates. And as a good designer, we need to create something that we can use multiple times. We need to create something that we can use multiple times so that the way your sign up, your input box will be, or a button will be on this page, will be the same on that page. In order for us to do that, we create what we call components. So from this place, I will create a page here, and let me call the key page components. Every item being stated in this page will refer to component that we can reuse multiple times. So I will come here and create a rectangle. So let's say the rectangle will have a fill. Let's give the rectangle a height of let's say 50 and a width of 200. At this small, let's give it 300 so that we can reuse it. Okay, let me go to this wireframing and see other ones. Let's see this, for example. Okay, this is 500 by 60. So let's copy this and take it to our components and delete this. So if I paste it here, this is our our button. So let's make it 500 in width and 60 in height. Let's make it 500 by 50. I think I'll prefer that. And let's minimize. How do we minimize? Hold your control and scroll down so that we can see it. Now I want the internal color, which is fill. Now on this fill, if I click on this fill here, you can see that I can select a solid color. We do not have only solid as a color combination. We can also do what we call linear color, radiant color, angular, diamond, image, and video. So if I change to linear now, linear, you can see I can select multiple color for multiple positions. Let's say this will be a little bit blue. Are you seeing it? And we also have what we call radical. We have what we call angular. We have what we call diamond. And we have what we call insert an image or video. You want to say something? Somebody want to say something? So, but we'll still be using the solid color for now. So we're still using the solid, but I want the solid internal color to be white. Meanwhile, I want this border to appear. So I will attach what we call strokes. So if I click on this stroke, you can see now we can have a border surrounding it. And I can select how thick or how where it will be. If I zoom in on this, I want you to take note of something. If I select under this stroke, if I select this box here, I can make the stroke centered and I can make it outside depending on the choice we want. At default, it is internal. And I can change the size, the width of it. If I change this now to, let's say, 50, you can see how thick it will become. Or let me change it to 5. The thickness has increased, so I will maintain my own position. So apart from that, I will be creating a placeholder, a text in between. So this text, in order for me to create it, in order for me to create that text, I will come here and select my text. Click inside of it and just type, let's say I will call this BVN, since that's the first requirement. Now I'll position this in between, somewhere here. And I want the size to be around something like 14. So let's still position it somewhere here. Danny, very okay. What's your question? Danny, what's your question? How do I do what? Please unmute yourself and speak up.
So how did you create the component?
I only created a page.
Okay.
So and I named the page component.
Okay, sir.
Who else has a question? Okay, I don't want this text to appear in the format that it currently appears. So I can now adjust it. Let me zoom in and position this thing properly. So how can I work with it? So I can click on it and reduce the opacity. The opacity means how bright, how light pass through it. I can come down to this pass through, hold on, and change this to, let's say, 50. So by changing that to 50, you can see that it somehow looks dark, a little bit lighter from the previous color. So, or let me just give this word placeholder. And I won't give it a width. I can increase the width this way so that it can contain more than the required. So we've created that. Now let's group them together. I will select this and select this. By selecting the two of them, I can make them a frame. Hope we are following. So by selecting this, I can group it together as one. And by grouping it together, then I can make it a component so that it can be reused. In order for me to make it a component, because I've grouped it together, I can click on this create component. When I click on it, this item I grouped has becomes a component. So let me name the component. So let's call it input, text input, text input. I've selected what we call text input. Now, if I come into my web view now, I can just simply excuse me. I can simply click on assets and come here. You can see this is the component we create. So I can just do drag and drop. By dragging and dropping it, can you see I've created it here? So I can position it anywhere I want and edit the text inside. Somebody want to ask a question? Do anybody have a question? Now we have a component which I can edit the content inside. I can just click on this. So let's say this is what? BVN. And I duplicate this. Hold on to this. Now before I duplicate, let me create that layer mark that I did initially. So let me click on this page. Let me go back here and click on the sign up. Let me click on this page and let me add a layer and make it colon and make the colon 2 and I give it a padding of 60, margin of 60. So it will be in this format. So everything will be on the same line. So I know this is for this and this is for this. So from this, I will leave this here, or I arrange it the same way I arrange the other one. Excuse me. Now I can click on this item here and I drag to the position where I want it. Now before I drag here and position, I want you guys to remember something. There is a text here. If you remember on the image, there's this text here. So let's call this lorem ipsum. Let's find a way to put this lorem ipsum. We can just type jargons there, or we insert a plugin. A plugin are something someone has already defined for us that we can use. So we can come down here and go to plugins and go to find more plugins because there's no plugin yet. So there's a plugin I want to install. There are many plugins, but the one I'll be using for this class is called lorem ipsum. So if I type lorem ipsum, it's a dummy text content text generator. Now you can see we have different type. So the one I'll be generating is this lorem. If I click on this, I can see more in details in community. So if I go to the community of it, I will see the way it operates, the way we can use it. So this is lorem, okay? And this is a documentation on what it is and how you can use it. Set time adding lorem to text block in Figma, add word, sentence, and paragraph, auto close or keep open, and random first text add to settings. So this is how you can use it, and you can under community you can just search for anything. Let me say lorem uspo generator, or clicking on the community you will see many other things you can do. So let's look for the lorem uspo. So it will show all items on lorem uspo, but what I actually want is the plugin for lorem uspo. Now check the community behind it. The number of people using this is over 82,000. And we have many other, we have 531,000. I think this is the most used. 531,000 usage. That's this lorem uspo. So if I check it out, if I click on it, it will bring the details. So it teaches you how to use it. All you need to do is to just tell it how many paragraphs you want it to generate and the likes, and it will generate it for you. So let's try it out. So by clicking on this try it out, it would want to install it for you. So it's installing lorem uspo for you so you can continue to work on your project. Now it has been installed. So let me come down to this my page and type the lorem uspo. So this is the one we're using. Let's click on run. Clicking on run will automatically install that plugin for you. So it has been installed. So select text, some text here. So this is the plugin that I want to use. So if I come here, so I'm waiting for it to, okay. So I'll create a text box somewhere here, because that's where we will be adding our lorem uspo. And I'll say create just 2 sentences or auto generate. Can you see when I click on auto generate, it automatically generates text for me. So I can adjust this to the position I want, and I can expand to the position where I want it. Now the text in between, I want it to be fully justified. So I can come down here, leave this as regular poppings, then under this text alignment left, auto height, I can click on this and change the alignment. You can see I can do more things here. I can change the alignment to center, justify, so that text will fill all through. So this is what I want, and I've created this button. So let's create another one, this text rather. So let me remove this thing, and let's create another one. I can simply click on it. This is this text input, and I create a duplicate, and I want this gap in between to be 20, 21. Let me just move a bit up. Okay, let me delete this. Let me click on this. Click on this text input. Hold on to shift, drag it down to where I want it to be. Then I create Ctrl D, so to make it 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, one fun part about components that I want you guys to be aware of is that when you make any changes to this in particular, it will affect every other one that is being created. Let's take for example, let's say I click on this text import and this placeholder, and I give it a background color. Let me change the background color. No, okay, this is a stroke. This one itself. Let me select not the text, the rectangle. Let me select the fill. Let's say I make the fill like this. Let me make it this. Let me select from this documented color and I leave it this way. If I go back to my web page, you will notice that all of them, their text change, their color change. So that's the power of components. So that when, let's say you're working as a team and you want to change all the text inputs. So creating a component for it works well. Then you can just easily replicate it in other spaces. So by doing this, I can just come here and change it back to what I want it to be, which is white, and I leave it. If I go back to this, okay, so if I go back to this, you can see I can make changes to it now. So from what we have on our image, you can see we have BVN, last name, middle name, which is optional, and first name. Let's do it accordingly. So I can just click on this text input. So I'll click on this text. I will call it last name. So that's last name. I can come here too and change this to first middle name rather. So I'll call it optional. Then this will be called first name. So if this, let's make this last name correctly. Are you seeing it? First name. Then from there, let's go here and write phone number, email. The email is also optional. So this will be phone number. So let's say phone number, then email, and the email too is optional. So we say email and write this to be optional. Then remember we have BVN. So this also will be email, home address. So before we go for the home address, let me just create a duplicate of this. So I can simply come down here. Now, if you remember something, this thing is short. So how do we make it bigger? I can simply come here, drag this downward. So to make it more bigger. So if I drag it downwards, I can simply easily duplicate this. So I can hold on to this, hold on to my alternate, and I drag it down. So remember it should be 21. Drop it there. Control D, D, D. So how many do we need? So we are now in, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we created 5. So just click on this and delete this. We don't need that. So let's zoom in back. So this will be home address. So this will be home address. And apart from home address, we also have date of birth. Then we have password and confirm password. So you have password, and here will be confirm password. Then we have this checkbox and this text. So we can just create another rectangle box somewhere here. O shift, so it will be equal 17. Instead of 17, let's make it 15. So it should be a checkbox. Now, similarly, I want it to be something someone can check. So let me zoom in first. So we see it closely. I can just click on this and drag it to the position where I want it to be. I want it to be in this position. So then we'll put a dummy text here. No, it's not a dummy text. I think there's a text there. I agree to the terms and condition. So let's create, I agree to the terms and condition. I can click on text, select here. Let's click on text first, then select here. I agree to the terms and condition. So let's add this closer to our text. So we can just put it here. Now, if you want it to be properly aligned, I can hold this, hold my shift and select this. Then I can properly align it like this. So I want you guys to replicate what I just did. I want you guys to do the same. So let's see what the outcome would be. So I want you guys to replicate this same thing that I did.
Side of Figma screen. Sir, can you please zoom in a little?
Remember I created a component. Remember I created this component and now I made it a component. Was when I created it, there was a button here and I created it with a component. There was a button here before, and that's why.
Sir, please, can you show me how to create the component again?
Okay, Mr. Matthew, let me quickly show you how to create the button.
I'm with you, sir.
Let me create the button so I will know I finished my own section. Let me create the button. So I can come here and bring a rectangle down here. So let's say I bring a rectangle down here and I want it to have the same similar property to this. So I want the width to be 500, but the height should be 50 and the pixels should be around 10 pixels, the curve edges. So I want this, this will become, what's it called? So I want a text to be in between it. So I will come and put a text. So let me just give it a stroke. I'll click on stroke. Then this stroke is black. I can change it to any color of my choice. Then I want the text in between. Let me leave it that way because it will be different from so there'll be a difference with it with this. So I'll select the text here and I'll come here and I will type the word submit, and I want this submit to be more bold. So I'll increase the regular down to bold, the text from regular down to bold, and I will change it from 16 or 14 to 16 so that it will be a little bit bigger. Then I'll put it in between here. Now, if it is not properly positioned, I can select this, hold my shift and select this other one too. So I'm selecting the both of them. Then I will come to this alignment and I'll press this middle so that everything will be in the in between. Are you seeing it? So with that, I can just Control G it, group it together, and I will rename it as button. If I name it button, the very minute I name it button, now this is the most important part. Remember I group it together. So this is what I group together. Okay. So I'll click on it and I select this thing called create components. So if I click on create components, I have made it a component. Can you see we now have a text input component and a button component. So if I go now to the web view, I can come down to here under this additional stuffs, and I come to components. Then from the component, I can load all libraries to see my used component. Or I come to this asset and I will come to this local component. If I drag and drop it here, it's there. So I can position it where I want it. I want it to be here, so I can just drag and drop it there. So I think I'm done. So that's how you create a component. You can say I can drag as many as I want. So is that clear, Mr. Matthew?
Yes, sir.
What about Mr. Matthew? Is it clear? Mr. Matthew, is it clear?
Yes, sir. Perfectly clear. Thank
Okay.
you so much.
I want you to do the same. Then I do the last thing. So we'll call today a day. Tomorrow we'll continue from where we stop. But
Okay,
I want
sir.
you to get the outcome of this. So the only thing that is remaining,
Oh, great.
let me do the last thing that is remaining. If I come to my layer, I select the sign up. What's this? I'll click the sign up. Then let me make this visible. Then I've created this. So I want to create the image here. You know, there'll be an image here, the logo here. So I can just create a rectangle, hold down my shift so
Yes,
that it will
sir.
be equal sizes. Then and I will make it 500 by 500. Let me make it 500. So you know, if I say 500 here, both the height and the width will be 500. So I will position it in between, somewhere here, and I will type the word logo in between too. So I'll bring the text, click it here, and I will say logo. Then I leave it this way. Now, in order for it to be positioned properly, I can just select this. Now, the logo, I want the text called logo to be very big. I can click on it, change from bold to black. Then the size from 16, let me give it something around 64. I can reposition, and to make it, I'll select the two of them and also select this. By doing that, I've done the positioning. So I want you guys to create the same thing. So let me remove the layout. So I click on sign up page. I can hide this, and I'm done with the design of this. So I want you guys to do the same. I want you guys to do the same. So share the design of what you have done. If you look at the top here, there is a button called share. If you click on it, now you can easily see here, I can type an email. Any email address you type here, you can share it. Or you get a copy link for sharing. So if you copy this, you can copy this and mail it to someone. Let's say I send it to you. If I send it to Mr. Matthew now, you can see it will safely deliver for you. So by clicking on it, you can now view it. Okay? You can view it. So I want you to do the same. Create a replica so that someone can view it. So that's all for today's class. Any question before I will call today a day?